Hello, everybody. Hey, Eric. Hey, Philip. Again, thanks for being here today. Happy birthday, by the way, Eric. Playing Baldur's Gate 3 is a good birthday present. Well, for some of us anyway. Hope everybody's had a good week. It's been a busy week this week, and here in the next couple of weeks things are gonna start getting a little busier on my weekends with the NFL football season starting up again here in the United States, so there'll be some changes to the schedule that I'll talk about during the admin notes. That there was. Patch number 1 was released. I'll be talking about that in the admin notes as well. I read every line of it. And there are some really important fixes in there. We all kind of knew that something big was going to be coming here in the first month of the release. So we're really glad to see that Larian is staying on top of the fixes that they need to make, and that, more importantly, people are giving their feedback on the forums about issues that they find throughout the game. You know, there were bound to be. There's so many different characters, origin characters and NPCs, and all the dialogue that goes along with it, that having different combinations of all of those things was bound to have a lot of cutscene and dialogue implications. And yeah, I'm glad to see that people are reporting all of those issues, and that Larian is really jumping on top of them as quick as they are. Yeah, I know, Philip. It's gonna be a crazy time for me coming up here in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a little nuts. And again, I'll talk about that in the admin notes at the start of the stream, but. Yeah, gonna be a busy person, but I do enjoy playing these games, and I really enjoy playing them here with all of you guys and getting all of the feedback and input. So busy's just a part of it. I'm happy to do it. And speaking of Starfield, the leaks have really been a thing. Bethesda's flesh-eating lawyers have been out in force going after that stuff. It turned into a really big deal here in the past week and a half, 2 weeks. But I will say the game looks amazing, as we all thought it was going to be. Looking forward to it as well. And yeah, it will be a good type of busy. Yeah, and I'm the same way, Philip. I'm not going to be, talking about any of the leaks or the spoilers, other than that they're out there, because I know some people do want to get, early information about them. Oh, thanks, David. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're enjoying the videos and the live streams. Yeah, it's kind of harkening back to the days of when you get guidebooks to go along with video games. You could go to video game stores and there'd be a guidebook to help you with a walkthrough type of thing. Yeah, I really tend these live streams and these videos to be more toward a in-depth learning type of mentality, as opposed to just playing through it and getting through it and finishing up. You know, there are people that finish these things and, you know, finish Baldur's Gate 3 in 100 hours. And right now I've got, geez, 390 hours or something like that, all in just Act 1 between all of my playthroughs. So it's not something I'm going to rush through. Hey Star, welcome to the stream. I appreciate it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got guidebooks were the big thing back in the day. You'd go to the video game store and there'd be a hardbound guidebook sitting on the shelf you could pick up. And what's funny back then is that a lot of those guidebooks were written so that you could buy them on the same day that you bought the video game. So the developers would put out guidebooks to help you, you know, through various different situations in the game that they were going to be releasing. So it was kind of them releasing their own spoilers a little bit. It was kind of funny back in the day. Yeah, so am I, David. That's exactly what it is. Like, even on my full playthrough, I have just now finished the Goblin Camp. I finished the Goblin Camp yesterday, and I'm about to head back and take care of the party with the Tieflings at camp in Emerald Grove. So I'll be moving into Act 2 here probably in the next couple of days. Figure after the live stream today, and I play a little bit this evening, I'll be into the Underdark and working my way through that. And then I figure that tomorrow, maybe Monday or Tuesday, whenever I get back to the game based on work, I'll be finishing up the Underdark and figuring out which way I want to head into Act 2. Yeah, Joshua, that's a good question. For everybody who doesn't know, the differences between Vulkan and DirectX 11. The short answer is that Vulkan offers higher performance for games that are NVIDIA based, that have been written around the Vulkan driver. And the downside of that is that Vulkan is not nearly as stable as DirectX 11 is. You'll see as we start getting farther into this that you're going to see some stuttering in the frame rates and that sort of stuff utilizing DirectX 11. Even on the fairly high-end rig that I play on, versus Vulkan in that same exact spot would be a lot smoother. However, you trade off stability. So on my live streams, I always use DirectX 11 because I don't want the game to crash and have to restart the game in the middle of the stream. That I had happen a couple of times. So I always use DirectX 11 when I'm playing live stream, but then when I'm on my own, I save so much. I think I've got 950 some saves in Act 1, and video clip, recordings that go along with each one of those saves. So I save so often that if the game crashes with Vulkan, I don't lose a whole lot of progress. So I play with Vulkan on my off-stream playthrough, but then all my live streams are done with DX11 just because of the stability. So if you're having crashing issues, Josh, change over to DX11. It's going to solve those. I have yet to have a crash on DX11. Will I be streaming my first step into Act 2? Absolutely. Yeah, once we finish up the Underdark on my live streams, then yeah, we will figure out which way we want to progress into Act 2. There are multiple ways to progress into it, and we will certainly head out and do that. And that will be unplayed territory for the most part. It's I'll be a little bit ahead on my personal live stream, but yeah, it's not like I have hundreds of hours of experience behind me like I do with the Act 1 from Early Access, so it's gonna be fun to watch. Oh, Eric, that's cool. You worked in QA for one of the publishers of the guidebooks. Yeah, it was back in the day. I started doing beta testing for game developers. Oh boy. Almost 30 years ago. Well, yeah, 30 years ago now. With a, at that point, fairly unknown company by the name of Bungie. With the Marathon series of games. And yeah, being on the inside and kind of seeing how other departments were writing those guidebooks was kind of funny too. Oh, that's great. Yeah, it sounds like we've got some fairly similar backgrounds and all of that. Like I say, always been interested in video games for a lot of years, and then when I got into college, that gave me an opportunity to really expand on that and continue on with the... Oh, geez. Yeah, that was... And things obviously were a lot different back in the day compared to what they are now. Back when we used to get alpha testing stuff in a manila envelope mailed to us that used to have 3.5-inch floppy disks in it. So things were quite a bit different, yeah. But even back then, you know, we were still signing NDAs for all of that stuff. That was my first experience with non-disclosure agreements way back in the day. So, but it's been fun to see it change over the years. Like I say, 30 years in the gaming industry it's really been fun to watch. So. Thankfully, I never had to actually write one of the guides. There was other departments that were doing that, so... But yeah, they certainly didn't appreciate all the changes. Alright, so I think we're going to go ahead and get ready to get started here. Welcome everyone to today's live stream, episode 8 of our Baldur's Gate 3 Bard gameplay series. I'm Commander Jorval, and I want to thank you for coming along on our journey today. So, yeah, Philip, you're right, it does. So, for some admin notes, a couple of really important announcements. First, Larian Studios released patch 1 earlier this week, and if you haven't read the patch notes, and they are extensive, as Larian said, there's over 1,000 fixes and changes that they've made to the game in this patch. We expected that it was coming. They had talked about it and hinted at it on the forums, that all of the input that people were giving about incorrect cutscene visuals and dialogue and combinations of characters affecting different dialogues and cutscenes and things like that were going to be taking the input from the forums, all the responses and bugs that people had reported on the forums, and they were going to be having everybody jump on those as quickly as they can. And they certainly did that. They went through and made a lot of changes to the cutscene visuals. They went through and did a lot of dialogue changes to make sure that there weren't any, or that there were a bunch of corrections made on incorrect dialogue showing up at certain locations and that sort of stuff. They also did some balancing passes, so to speak, on various things, and for the most part, that has come down to really correcting some things that were not right the first time. They fixed some things that were allowing, unlimited stacking damage. They were fixing some things where damage was being incorrectly applied. So they fixed some items that were causing game crashes when people would not really abuse, but they would take the mechanic involved with those items to a level that was never intended in the game and that sort of stuff. So there's been a lot of fixes like that throughout the patch notes. A lot of them did also affect Act 1. So that's both good and bad in that I believe one of the balances that they made was that they increased the amount of gold that you're going to find in chests throughout the game. So all the chests that I've already looted, I won't have that opportunity to do it. But they also did some other things like making Explorer mode a little bit easier. That was one of the comments that they got a lot, is that for new players who don't have a lot of D&D experience and don't know the mechanics behind it, they've made Explorer mode a bit easier by basically giving you double the hit points that you would get on balanced mode. It used to be an extra 50% HP, and now it's 100. So they've done a lot of things like that to kind of balance the game out like that. One of the things that people are upset about is how sorcery points are generated and utilized by certain things. There were some issues where you were able to really abuse the amount of sorcery points you were able to get, but then it was also kind of balanced out unintentionally by not being able to create 5th level spell slots using your sorcery points. So they've kind of brought all of that back to how it should be operating, and I think there's a lot of things that the game is much better off for it. So feel free to go to Larian's website and read through all the patch notes. Like I say, they are very extensive, but there's a lot of good stuff in there that you can refer to. So on the second admin note, here in the United States, NFL football season is going to be starting up. And if you were around during the early access period last year at this time, you saw that I changed my streaming schedule to accommodate for that. And I'm going to do the same thing again here. The NFL season starts here on September 10th, which is basically 2 weeks from tomorrow. And those games are various times from noon, 3 or 7 on, or 3:30 on, and 7 on Sundays. So depending upon when my hometown team plays, I don't want to have to keep shifting my Sunday live stream around to different times. I prefer to set it at a specific time and go from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I did last year, that I'm going to move my Sunday from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. stream to Saturday at that same time. So the Paladin stream will move to Saturday from 2 to 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time. But what that does is that this live stream, which normally plays from noon until 3, is now going to have to be bumped up to be a little earlier. And for my European viewers, that'll give you a couple extra earlier hours on this one. So I'm going to start this live stream on Saturdays. Instead of at noon, I'm going to start it at 10. And it will go from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Central Daylight Time on Saturdays. That will give me a break in between the two streams to be able to give my voice a rest and grab some quick lunch and something to drink and that sort of stuff. And then come back to the Paladin live stream starting at 2 o'clock. So you're going to get 6 hours on Saturday of me. I don't know if you'll be able to put up with me that long. I don't know if I'll be able to put up with myself that long. But yeah, that seems to be the best way to go about it. At least that's how it's going to start off. If I find that I can't do it, basically I can't keep my voice going for 6 hours in a day or something, then I may shift things around to leave this live stream at the same time and just move the Sunday live stream to the morning or something like that, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. or something like that. But I'd prefer not to, but we'll kind of see how it goes. So for now, pay attention. I'll put up a community post next week concerning the change in the streaming time, and I'll adjust the schedule on the About page on my YouTube channel, so you can see the times there and refer to them. So I think that's about it, other than the big thing that's now coming is the console players, specifically PlayStation 5, are finally going to be able to get to play the game. So congratulations, everybody. I know you've been tuning in to get some heads up on the game that you're going to be able to play, and I certainly understand when the game comes out that you probably won't be here any longer, because you're going to have the game to be able to play yourself. But I certainly understand and appreciate that. Having to wait both ways, either a console game that comes out later on PC in a port, or doesn't come out at all on PC, and a PC game that comes out late as a port on console. That's always frustrating. So glad to see that we're finally at that time where everybody's going to be able to jump in and play the game. It's really amazing to be able to do it. So yeah, on Xbox sometime it'll be coming out. So Xbox and Mac operating system as well. So all right, I think that's about it. So let's go into our recap. At the end of last episode, we had completely finished out clearing the Blighted Village, and we are now ready to move into the Whispering Depths. And we had talked about the multiple ways to enter the Whispering Depths, and we've chosen the way in that we're going to use, and that's where we're going to start. So we're going to clear out the Whispering Depths. There is quite a bit of content here, realistically, but we should be able to get through all of it today. And then we will look at how we want to approach the Necromancy of Thay, the book that we picked up last live stream, but can't read at this time, but will be able to read at the end of this live stream. So let's go ahead and jump right in, and we'll pick up from there. Oh, well, thanks, Philip. I certainly appreciate you sticking around. Like I say, I certainly expected, viewership to drop off once the game released, because everyone's obviously going to want to be playing it themselves. So I certainly understand that. That's one of the great things about the game coming out. You'll certainly want to jump in and play it yourself. So here we go. Right where we left off, we are inside the basement underneath the Blighted Village, and two ways in the basement to enter the Whispering Depths. We have this way up here and this way down here. There's also a third way, which is using the bucket on the well up top in the courtyard of the Blighted Village. We're going to enter in this way, and that's going to allow us to keep the high ground as we go through this. So just like I did last time, when I check my action economy before I go in, and for those who don't know, action economy means how many spell slots, how many
can't give up now.
bardic inspirations, how many depletable actions do I have available to me. So I've got about half of my spell slots on my bard still available.
Someone there.
I don't have any of my warlock spell slots, so we definitely want to take a short rest and get those back.
Now, forward.
And I still have all of my superiority die. Well, I did still have all of my superiority die even before I took the short rest, so I think we're going to be okay on action economy to get through this first encounter. We will take a long rest, though, before we get to the penultimate encounter inside the depths here. So let's, with that being said, let me make sure all of my... Okay, so it looks like everything else is set, so let's go ahead and move into here.
Another step forward.
And we've got some floating bricks here. I'll have to report that on the forums. And we'll move into the Whispering Depths here. Now, before we get too far into this... Oh, and also, there's the well bucket entrance down there. The other entrance from the other side is over here. However, both of those entrances come in on a lower level than where we are right now, and I want to stay up high to give myself the height advantage. So before we go too far in here, I definitely want to hide.
Better be careful. Those webs carry vibrations.
Okay, and that check is about these spider webs. So not only can the spider webs send off vibrations, but they also can enweb you, which functions just like the web spell, meaning you have to pass a dexterity saving throw to have your freedom of movement back. And you can see now we're starting to get some detection cones that are showing up. And that's why I wanted to be in hiding. Now, if you step on these and they emit vibrations, those vibrations can alert enemies that are out here in this area. So you want to stay off of those spider webs until you've managed to clear out the enemies here. And actually, before I move in there, I want to move everybody back a little ways. Because as usual, I'm going to kick this off in my standard way. So I'm going to toggle the group here. I'm going to move in with Astarion and survey the area that we have down here. So a couple of things of note. You can see we have a phase spider here. You can see we have another phase spider here. We have another detection cone for an Eder cap, which is over here. And then we also have another Eder cap, which is down here. Now, the Eder caps and the spiders both have ranged attacks. So staying away from them is a little bit difficult when it comes to managing their movement and where they can and cannot go to attack you. The phase spiders also have a unique ability, which allows them to basically misty step around the map. So they are able to close the distance very, very quickly once you have engaged in combat. The Eder caps are going to stay at range for the most part and inflict damage on you that way. So getting your melee characters into a spot to be able to deal damage during this encounter can be a little bit tricky. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing here, is kind of working our way through how this is going to go. We're going to focus first of all on the phase spiders though. So what we're going to do with Astarion is kind of move up here as far forward as we can get and look at our sneak attack range and see where we can and cannot reach. So here, this phase spider's not going to normally come into range of us. So I'm still slightly out of range here, and that's why I have disadvantage, is because you can see the top target is outside of normal range. So I'm going to try and move forward just a little bit more and see if I can manage to get myself into range here. If I can't, it's not that big a deal. But I do want to start this off with Astarion. So looks like I'm going to be just outside of range. But I'm still going to go ahead and kick this off with an attack against this phase spider here. That's going to allow Astarion to roll initiative. He hopefully rolls pretty high, and we can kick this thing off. Okay, so he did manage to keep his stealth check. So I'm now going to... Okay, so we did manage to get, and he rolled very, very low on initiative. But I did manage to get off the sneak attack on that phase spider. So we've got a lot of damage done against him. Okay, so Astarion is going to... So, let's see what we have here. We can't jump across that. I don't think we have the strength for that. Yeah, we don't have the strength to jump all the way across that. We do have the ability to jump back here, though. It would have been nice if I'd have been able to track across this and get an offhand attack on him, but I'd have to pass my dexterity saving throws to get over there. I guess I could try it. But I think I'm going to keep him back here, and I'm going to bring everybody else into combat here instead. So I'm pretty sure that Wyll's Eldritch Blast is blocked. No, it's not. Okay, so he's going to be able to take care of this phase spider here. I'm just looking at my options here, because knocking this Ettercap back isn't really going to do much. I think getting rid of this phase spider is still the best option for Wyll, so that's what we're going to do. Let him roll initiative. He rolled down at the bottom of the initiative list, but that's not a big deal. This Ettercap is going to move up here to the edge. Probably do a ranged attack on Astarion, if he can. So let's try and move Astarion back here. Actually, he's got two, so we're going to dash first. We're going to jump to get him over that web. And then we're going to move him back a little ways. Now we can figure out how we want to get Lae'zel into the combat here. We definitely want to get her down here, and there are a few different ways that we can do that. I think the easiest one for her is going to simply be to backtrack and come out the other entrance here. That would allow me to get back behind the Ettercaps. So this is going to take me a bit to walk her back, but once I get out of sight up here, I'll be able to bring her out of hiding.
Proceeding.
Okay, so we're going to bring her back. No, don't go that way. We're going to jump her down here. Okay, so it's not going to let me just climb down. Doesn't really matter that much. Those boxes are a little buggy as to whether or not you can climb up and down them versus whether you have to jump to get up and down them. So here I'm going to go back into hiding again. And now, again, we have to cross this web here to get over to this side. But if I get in webbed, I'm not too worried about it. Because the vibrations aren't going to alert anybody at this point. Okay. So now I'm over here behind everybody, and I can look and see where my detection cones are falling. So I can probably get around over here. And I can probably make my way around here. Nope. I wasn't able to. So, but at least she's most of the way down here now. I will be able to close the distance here pretty quickly because this ettercap here that is up above me is probably going to move down toward me and do a ranged attack against her anyway. So it's going to get her down into melee combat pretty quick. I just would have wanted to be able to get the first attack. Just wasn't able to. So for my bard, and we've got a weird overlap of detection cones back here, so I'm not entirely sure if this is rendering correctly or not.
Light on my feet.
So let's see what we have here. So a 0 on wisdom there. A 12 on wisdom, so a +1 to wisdom checks there. I think what's going to happen here is that this phase spider is probably gonna ethereal jump up to here, and this ettercap is probably gonna make its way toward Lae'zel as well. So I think I want to try a Dissonant Whispers down here, and there's no reason for me not to upcast that. 60%, a 65% chance to hit here. And try and lock the phase spider in place.
Time for some bloody work.
Okay. So that phase spider is frightened. So I'm betting that this ettercap is going to try and move toward Lae'zel to get into melee range and not try and do a ranged attack up here. But a ranged attack is better than having the ettercap get close to me at this point. That's what I want to try and avoid. So this one's going to move down, cast web, that's not a problem. Okay, and now I get to what I can do here, and I think we're immediately going to reapply Hex here. And again, we're going to reapply the Strength Hex. And I'm going to move Wyll back out of sight a little bit. Half of his movement speed, so that he hopefully stays out of line of sight from the ranged attacks down here. For my bard, now I can look at focusing some damage spells here, or trying to eliminate somebody else off the battlefield. And I think that's going to be what we want to do here, is try and hold down the ettercap here. Okay. So now I want to keep my concentration on that. Can I see Lae'zel, I can. That's going to move her a third of her movement speed. That should be okay.
Touch of magic will do the trick.
Get her combat inspiration, and then move my bard back out of sight
At the ready.
as far as I can, so I can hold concentration on Tasha's and avoid getting hit.
Swift and lethal.
Okay, so my movement speed is cut in half here. I was just doing that to switch my weapons. So let's jump up here. And now we're going to try a menacing attack on the Ettercap. Okay, so I can add another 1d6 damage to it. Might as well go ahead and do that. Going to Action Surge. And I'm going to do another one. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So now I've got 2 targets left, one which is on the ground laughing, and the other one which is frightened and can't move. So that's exactly where I wanted this to be here. Is now I have some really good advantage against these last 2 targets. So let's see if it holds through the rest, or through their turns. Okay, so he was able to shake that. No, he was frightened. So I guess frightened does not apply to his ethereal jump. That's unfortunate. Frightened normally means that you're not able to move at all. Your movement speed is reduced to 0. But I guess just like Misty Step, that's not counting as movement speed. So I was hoping it would lock him down in place, but it didn't. So let's look at our detection cones here. So I want to move Astarion back out a little bit. He's then going to Cunning Action Hide.
Time for a new approach.
And we'll look at the sneak attack. So he's not able to get an attack there, because he's too far away. So how far does he have to move? Quite a bit. So let's see if he can pass his stealth check here. He was able to. Let's see if that's close enough. And it is. So hopefully we can get rid of this phase spider here. Good deal. And now again, I'm going to move him back around the rock out of line of sight here. And I can use my last bonus action to hide, so I don't have to do it next turn.
Battle favors the fearless.
Okay, for Wyll, I'm going to move him up. That takes half his movement speed. Going to apply Hex here for the additional damage. And yes, because I'm poisoned, let me see if... So I know I have some here. There's one. There it is. So now if Wyll drinks that, that is going to... Oh, he can't, because drinking is a bonus action. And he already used his bonus action to cast Hex. So he's just going to have to deal with the fact he's got disadvantage on this. Actually... No, let's hold his turn instead. Let's see how far Lae'zel can move first. Okay, so she can jump all the way down here. without moving. And I'm not going to be able to get close enough with... Yes, I am, because... No, I can't. I should have used the jump first before I moved in here. That was a mistake on my part.
My path be true.
So I'm going to move everybody into range and hold my turn, and hopefully the Ettercap fails its turn again, or fails its saving throw again. And I'm not going to move my Bard up right now. Okay, good. So it failed its saving throw because now that it is on the ground, now my menacing attack, since we are going to be taking a long rest, we might as well give her a combat inspiration.
This should help.
Time to strike.
Then we will move her up. Okay, and I can add in Valiant damage. And now we've only got 4 hit points left. So now it's going to be fairly easy to finish the Ettercap off in any of a multitude of different ways. Perfect. Okay, so fairly straightforward. The only thing I didn't count on was the fact that their ethereal jump ability, and I probably should have realized that. Just like Misty Step doesn't count as movement speed, I should have realized that their ethereal jump wasn't going to count as movement speed, and therefore frightening the target wasn't going to lock it into place. I should have reversed those. I should have frightened the Ettercap and put the Phase Spider under Tasha's hideous laughter. But one way, 6 of one, half dozen of the other seem to work out okay. So now we're not going to group our party back up.
Best be on my way.
Because with them separated like this, they're going to want to go a whole bunch of different directions
No traps,
to
please.
get back to each other. So we do have some silk glands that we can pick up and take. And if we get it webbed, it's not a big deal.
What a day. Let's move. Defender of the people. Keeping pace.
At least things have stayed interesting. Time to press ahead.
Okay, and we'll just gradually make our way past all of the webs here.
This way. Defender of the people. Best foot forward. How delicious. Don't linger.
And there we go. So we can group up these 3 right now.
Have a lot on my mind.
And we can do a little searching while we make our way down there. So down here, it's very important to hold left alt so that you can see various things that you can search and interact with down here. You don't want to miss any of these. And there's a bunch of stuff laying all around in here that you want to pick up.
One day I'll catch a break.
So going back through some of the comments here to see if I missed anything. Yeah, I know, Eric. It's one of those things that in the game, if you were doing this in tabletop, you obviously would not be allowed to do any of this. Your DM would laugh at you if you told him that you were going to be doing any of this. So yeah, it is a bit exploity, I guess, from that perspective. However, in this game, there's going to be obvious differences that you just can't get around compared to tabletop. So I don't feel too bad about it. I'm just clearing up some of my carry weight here. Moving just a few things over to my high strength character so I can continue moving around. So once you get down here, again, a whole bunch of things to pick up and a whole bunch of things to look at. So we have an apprentice's pack. Alchemist fire is always useful. And then we have an apprentice's journal. What the game intends for you to do is to come into the Whispering Depths before you go into the Necromancer's lair that we already visited, where the Necromancy of Thay was. Here you read a little bit more about the lore of what was happening between the Necromancer and his apprentice, as well as where they came from and how they got here. And these journals that you're going to read down here are going to help you answer those questions that the mirror asks you. So there are ways in game to find out the answers to those questions if you don't have a guide in front of you or something like that to read. They are here in the various books here in the Whispering Depths. So we do have these spider silk cocoons, which you can ranged attack. And when you do, they're going to drop things that you can then pick up. So don't forget to attack those as you move around down here and you're exploring, to see if there are any more items down here that you can get. Okay, so now I can group everybody back up. I can take my next short rest. It doesn't really matter at this point. I'm going to be taking a long rest here fairly shortly anyway. So here we have a goblin child we can search. And we have some more spider silk cocoons. Okay. So looks like these things are caught. They were stuck. Okay, I was going to say, for some reason, they tend to get stuck sometimes instead of dropping down. I've seen that more often in the full version than they used to be in early access. In early access, you didn't have to ever worry about that. They always drop down. Here, they seem to not be doing that so much. So, but you still can sometimes grab them, and even when they're supposedly still way up in the air. So moving into this area here, we're not going to explore this area too much first. But if you go into hiding,
Don't waste a step.
and you come up here to the edge, you now see we have another phase spider down here, which is facing away from us. We also... and you can't see any of the detection cones yet. See if we can move up a little bit farther. You also see we have some phase spider eggs down here, which are now just in range. You can see a group of them here. You can see another group up here. And another group over here. Those are going to be very important when we get into the encounter that happens in this area. And we will want to prep for those once we get ready for that. We certainly do not want to go into that encounter without, like I say, preparing ourselves for what's going to happen. So here I can move back, and it looks like Astarion got poisoned by walking through some poison on the ground back here somewhere. Again, a pathing thing. We're going to make our way around here, and you see we do have some spider silk cocoons we can search. Okay, we do have another cocoon here to shoot down. That dropped another potion of healing. And again, see what I was talking about. Sometimes they stay stuck up there now. So, fairly annoying. I don't know of any way to get them back down after they've managed to get themselves stuck. Try one more time. Yeah, I can't reach it. So up here we do have another one hanging here. Okay, and nothing came out of that one. And then we do have an old backpack up here at the top that we're going to get to here in a second. So we're going to make our way down here and into this area. And we can do some searching in here. Okay, so moving around here, we do have another shovel. We have some bottles that we can pick up.
Open up.
Fire burns down webs as well. That is no longer targetable. For instance, where that healing potion is, which is right around in here. Yeah, right there. There's no web on it anymore that you can target with a cantrip to burn it out. If you burn it, if you target the cocoon with a fire cantrip, it does the same thing as shooting it does. So there doesn't seem to be any appreciable difference between them. It's just now they don't seem to be falling down as much like they used to in early access. If you're talking about these spider webs here, you certainly can burn those out. And that is going to come into play when we get into the penultimate encounter in here. And I'll talk about that more once we get there. So we're going to finish searching up in here. Okay, just have some books. And again, if you're looking for the Steam achievement to read 100 books in a single playthrough, make sure you click on them. But those are fairly straightforward, nothing out of the ordinary about those books. So we have a heavy chest over here. We're going to walk up to it first, okay, so we know it's not trapped. And we have the spider step boots, which we'll talk about here in a second. We've got a ritual diagram here by the desk, which has two figures, a spider and an elf. There's overlapping circles between them and a word that says transcendence. That's going to be a hint about what is happening down here. But we'll search the wicker chest first, and there's a scroll of web, which is great for Wyll. And now what we see here is we have 4 journals. There's 3 of them over here. So we're going to pick up the tattered journal. Going to pick up the web-covered journal, the bloody journal, and the burnt journal.
That'll fit in my pack.
Hey, X-Up, welcome to the stream. So we can go look at these, and they're all right here. So if you read them, You learn about what was happening down here, in that there's an interaction with some spiders that was happening down here. They can sense this person's devotion, and spiders were giving that person gifts from the spider queen Lolth. And you're going to learn more about that as you read through the journals here. So it is time. I will forever transcend this blasphemous flesh and refashion myself in the Queen's image. So today I found the House of Lolth. I shall be its matriarch. So now it's starting to take shape here that this elf down here was trying to transform themselves into a spider to try and be a devotee of Lolth, the Spider Queen. So that's what these journals are about, documenting that journal and how they did it. But it said in the web cover journal, I believe, I shall be its matriarch. So she's transformed into a spider and has now become the matriarch. And you're going to learn more about that as we go. So making my way around here, we have another chest or crate we can search. And nothing else in it. There's nowhere to jump out here. You can see there's nothing on the minimap out here. So I can make my way back around. Quite a bit, Antonio. We'll see if we get into that point. You cannot web the spiders that are going to be in our next encounter. So the first time I'd be able to cast web and cause the explosion wouldn't be until I get up to the Risen Road. So it's going to be a while to do it, but I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe the explosion is either 2d6. I think it's 2d6. I honestly can't remember. It's been a while since I've looked at the DMG for it, but I believe that's right. It might be 3d6, but like I say, it's been a while since I've looked at it. So we're going to make our way around this corner and head over to the old backpack, and we can search it. Some more items that we can sell. No, don't go that way. And we can move around here, pick up a few items. You can see we have a skeleton that we can search. Just some items to sell, and we have another spider silk cocoon. And
Careful, I might.
I'll be able to show you here. So your cantrips, your flame cantrips, burning those things, they act the same way. So see, the dagger is still suspended up in the air. Doesn't matter how you damage the cocoons. Those items tend to not drop down to the ground. Sometimes you can still reach them, sometimes you can't. So here is the well bucket, which if you click it will take you back up to the Blighted Village. That's why there's a quest marker on top of it, just to take you back to all of the quests that are available outside in the overworld, so to speak. Inside here, we again have some more spider silk cocoons. And it looks like we're only going to be able to reach this bottom set here. The simple boots are just stuck up in the air. So there's no other way that we can continue down that way. And we've explored down here. So now our options are to continue And we did search that. There's just a bone left in it. So we're going to come make our way down here. And we're going to break our group. We're going to go into our inventory and we're going to look at the spider step boots. Basically, this means that you're immune to being enwebbed and your movement speed is not affected by the web surfaces, which can be incredibly useful, especially for melee characters who you're trying to get close to spiders in this area, and you don't want them to be trapped by the webs that they give off or anything like that. But also now when you walk across these spider webs, you never have to pass a skill check, and you never have the possibility of stepping on it and alerting other spiders that are around you to the fact that you're there. So we're going to make our way back down here. My bard is not going to be the person who continues to wear those as we continue through this. I'm just having her wear them while we do these searches. Okay, so we've already explored. This is where we came in with Lae'zel from the other entrance. Okay, so we're going to head up over here. We're going to climb this cragged rock. And we have some more searching that we can do. Okay. So now we're going to prepare for this encounter in here. And I'm not going to go in with my current action economy. You can see that I don't have any more level 1 spell slots, and I only have 1 bardic inspiration left. So we're going to take a long rest here before we go into this. Can Mage Hand get that stuff up high? Sometimes yes and sometimes no. Mage Hand works from a video game perspective a little bit differently than it does in tabletop. Here, Mage Hand has to have a surface underneath of it to move around on. You're not able to move in air, basically up and down and that sort of stuff with Mage Hand. So it's a little more limited here than it might be in a tabletop setting. So I would doubt that Mage Hand is going to be able to reach those things. Just because if I can't, then the Mage Hand isn't going to be able to. So, but we can, certainly go look once we get back there. We'll see if our Mage Hand, we have free casts of it, basically. A free cast of it. So we can go check it out once we get back there and see. Yes, correct. Things like telekinesis, manipulate object, those sort of things certainly would be able to. If we had something like Bigby's Hand to be able to, lift you up in the air so that you could reach those things, that would work as well. So the fly spell, which works differently in this game than it does in tabletop, that sort of stuff. So we do have a conversation here with Shadowheart that we want to do, so let's go ahead and take care of that.
Something's wrong. I feel... it hurts. Darkness, protect me. No! I'm fine. Forget it. I don't know.
Okay, if you use this to enter into her mind, you're going to get a disapproval from it.
I'm fine. It's past whatever it was. And stop looking at me like that. I'm not sprouting tentacles just yet.
It's difficult for me to talk about. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we would have disadvantage on this check here. And again, like we've learned from Shadowheart earlier, trying to pry into things that she's keeping secret are going to result in disapproval from her. She will eventually want to open up. She's just not willing to do it right now, and forcing her to do it is going to be, like I say, you're going to earn disapproval for doing that. So talk to her again and see if there are anything else.
Aside from the obvious. I don't know what you mean.
Okay, now this might incur disapproval as well.
It's nothing, really.
Okay, and yeah, we get back to the same choices that we were at, except we don't have disadvantage on this check here. So we're going to be much more likely to pass it. So it's a DC of 18. Okay, so with friends, I don't think friends right now in balanced mode. I'll have to go look at this. If it's going to incur a negative penalty if they find out. I think that applies in tactician mode. I don't think it applies in balanced mode. But we'll go ahead. This is a cantrip, so I'm going to go ahead and try it here and just see what happens. I need to experiment with it anyway. That will give me advantage on this roll, and I've got +8 to my roll here.
You're not going to let this go, are you? You might wish you had. I worship Shah, the Mistress of the Night. It is my holy mission to oppose Selûne, her teachings and her followers.
It hurts.
Now that you have the truth, please don't make a big fuss about it.
Secrecy is everything for Shah's children. It is our code, our creed, our shield. I even keep secrets from myself. I had my memories suppressed, so that nothing I know could be used against the Dark Lady. Once I prove myself, my memories will be restored.
I'm not sorry I kept this from you. Not one bit. Though, perhaps that might change. If you can show an open mind.
Well, except we'll see. Like I say, I wanted to experiment with the friends cantrip anyway. This is why I chose it. Is because of a lot of the dialogue options that we're going to have that are going to have some pretty high checks as we go through. If it becomes very rampant that I'm going to be getting negative reactions from it, then we might adjust how we do, how we go forward. But I want to experiment with it and see how it goes.
Don't thank me. I'm breaking Lady Shah's teachings just by doing so. But sometimes you have to be practical. I'm sure you do. But please try to understand that it's not something I can just talk about freely.
Okay, so I do have an advantage here. A really low DC, so I can only fail this with a nat 1. 2 nat 1s, so let's watch it happen here.
there's potential in you. Let's see how you handle this. I am indeed a disciple of Shah, Mistress of the Night and Lady of Loss. I assume you've heard of her? My Lady Shah is the Night Singer, the patron of darkness and loss. Most fear the dark, like children, because in darkness they see their fears reflected. But Shah teaches us to step beyond fear, beyond loss. In darkness, we do not hide. We act. Pain, hope, the promise of better days. All of these are heavy cloaks that bend our backs and burden our hearts. We shed those cloaks. Before Shah, we stand gloriously naked, beyond the vanities of mortals. There's comfort, yes. But often there has to be pain beforehand. We tear down the lies the world is drunk on. The institutions they trust, the so-called gods they worship, the lives they cling to. We destroy false idols, topple corrupt organizations, fight heretics wherever they're found. There's often suffering, death even. Many people break before they embrace Shah's truths. You're wiser than most. Many people balk at our doctrine. It's the reason why we cherish secrecy. You've a habit of saying all the right things. Either you're very glib or we're kindred spirits. Maybe both, knowing myself. But yes, once we've saved ourselves, we can talk more on this. You already know my biggest secrets. What more can you ask? She took me in when no one else would. Without her, I wouldn't be alive. She's my mother. She nurtures me, cares for me, loves me. Don't believe the lies the Selûnites tell. What? Besides my life's calling and the greatest problem I've ever faced? Well, I like night orchids and can't swim. Is that the sort of thing you meant? It's a deal. No, I can't. Quite literally, I mean. With my memory suppressed, I can't betray Shah's secrets. But I can't remember much of myself either. If I manage to return to Baldur's Gate and fulfill Shah's mission, then my memories will be restored. Of course. It is an act of faith, not to be undertaken lightly. Shah will reward me when I succeed. Fine. What's on your mind? I don't think I've ever had a confidant quite like you. And if I have, I can't remember them.
Okay, so we managed to get a lot of the lore behind it. And yes, Eric, like we had talked about previously, I knew that Friends has the chance to give a negative approval after it wears off. I'm anxious to experiment with it and see how much that works. For instance, the approval that I have with, and she's not in my party right now, so I can't see it, I don't think. Yeah, I don't have it here. I would be interested to see how well how much that disapproval counts toward the 3 approvals that we got during that conversation. How much they offset each other. during the conversations. That's one of the things that I'm doing in my personal playthrough, is every conversation that I have in camp with my origin characters, I'm cataloging which option choices get you approval and or disapproval. And there will be guides coming out to help everyone pick the options that are going to get you whichever way you want, either disapproval or approval. I obviously can't do that with every conversational choice that happens with NPCs out in the world, and you have different party members in your group, and doing certain things gets approval and disapproval. There's just literally hundreds of thousands of choices to explore. But I can do that with all of the conversations with our origin characters. So I'm interested to see, like I say, there was 3 different approvals that we got from Shadowheart during that conversation. And then you got 1 disapproval after friends wore off. So I'm anxious to know how those play against each other, and that sort of stuff. So that's kind of why I'm interested to experiment with a little bit and kind of see how it goes. So we're going to go over here and talk to Astarion. And it's about time I save, just in case it crashes.
There you are. I was just thinking about you, and that delicious moment we shared the other night. The very same. I've had this condition for 2 centuries, but truth be told, you were my first. In all these years, I've only ever fed on beasts. Drinking the blood of thinking creatures is a different thing entirely. You were delectable. And now I can't help but wonder how the others taste. Alas, it doesn't hurt to ponder the question, though. Take Gale, for example. He strikes me as someone whose blood is rich, refined, like well-aged brandy. But the Gith? What in the hells would she taste like? Oh, well, that sounds very appealing. I'm almost convinced. Absolutely. A mere thought experiment. So, in the spirit of theoretical questions, if you had to take a bite from one of them, who would it be? Oh, I'm flattered. Who knew you had such taste? Unfortunately, all this talk is getting me hungry. I better find something I can actually sink my teeth into. Nothing out there will taste as good as the alternatives, but I'll make do. Sweet dreams.
So again, just like all the characters you talked to them the first time, you always go back a second time after you're done.
Yes.
And see what other options you have available to you afterwards. If they start off talking to you about something else, then you've got a preset set of conversations, and you always go back afterwards and see what other normal conversations are hidden behind the preset one.
Why do you insist on exhuming the past? I was a slave. A vampire spawn. Kept by the Tsar family. Perhaps I still am. I was never able to resist their commands. But now, I've been conveniently lost. They won't ever control me again. It's simple. Just find a vampire that will drink your blood and turn you into a vampire spawn. In theory, the next step is to drink their blood. Once you've done that, you're free. And a true vampire. People think the biggest threat to a vampire is a cleric with a stake. It's not. The biggest threat to a vampire is another vampire. They're scheming, paranoid, power-hungry beasts. So why would any vampire give up control over a spawn to create a competitor? Trust me, it doesn't happen. I've already apologized. What more do you want? Unless you're looking for another nibble. No innocence. You have my word. Only villains that we need to kill anyway. After all, you know what I am now. I can fight with all my weapons. Teeth included. And if I happen to drain the occasional bandit during a fight, what's the harm? They're just as dead. As am I. I'm starting to feel a little peckish already.
Boy, I'll say it again. Neil Newbon, who voiced Astarion, it's just a great performance. It's great writing for Astarion, but also a great performance by him.
Speak.
Okay, so nothing new from Lae'zel, and now we'll talk to Gale, and I think this is going to be a longer conversation here with Gale.
Tiring business, isn't it? All this traveling and adventuring. Why don't we take a little break, Allow ourselves a few moments of rest? Gives me a chance to talk to you about something, well, rather important. We've been on the road together for a while now, haven't we? Survived some perils, overcame some obstacles. Ever since you were kind enough to free me from that stone, I've seen you demonstrate remarkable guile and courage. The way you diffused the tension between Zevlor and Aradin. The way you stood in front of a crossbow to prevent a murder. The way you got Korga to release the girl. The way we got that boy out of a harpy's clutches. In short, I've grown to trust you. The reason I make a point of saying this is that I've grown confident enough to tell you something I've yet to tell another living soul, except for my cat. You see, I have this condition. Very different from the parasite we share, but just as deadly. The specifics are rather personal, but suffice it to say that it is a malady I've learned to live with, though not without some effort. What it comes down to is this. Every so often, I need to get my hands on a powerful magical item and absorb the weave inside. I can say no more on the matter. Not now, anyway. Just trust me when I say it's all of vital importance. It's been days since I last consumed an artifact, since before we were abducted. It's only a matter of time before my craving returns. That is why I turn to you. I need you to help me find magic items to consume. It is vital. Dare I say it? Critical. We've already done the finding. In fact, you have one in your possession. You know for yourself how hard-won such an item was, and it will be no easier when even more are required to assuage my hunger. There'll be danger involved, or great cost. Splendid. Bit of boldness will serve us well. I'm sure we won't have to look very far to find what I need. Faerun overflows with magic-infused treasure. As do our packs, as a matter of fact. We've such an item already in our possession, primed for the moment the need arises. I hope I can count on you.
Okay, so again, we'll talk to him again real quick.
How can I help? Think of it as tribute. The kind a king might pay to a more powerful neighbor to avoid invasion. As long as I pay, there will be peace. But should I ever stop, along comes a war. I can assure you, the battlefield would extend well beyond the borders of my body alone. We all have our burdens, one way or the other.
Okay, so we're going to hold off on giving him a magical artifact, but I do want
Your
to...
enterprising approach to my problem is most encouraging. But it is a delicate process to keep my condition stable. I do not yet need to consume an item, but keep it close by. It will not be too much longer.
But yes, that will let you know you will get a conversation option with Gale, not necessarily when you're just in camp, but also when you're out adventuring where he needs to have an item. And you will see an effect come over him during that, and you'll need to deal with it when you get to that point. So let's see. Still doesn't look like I've been lucky enough to find any. So I was looking to see if I had any potions of animal speaking, and I still don't. You can interact with Scratch again. There's nothing special in this encounter here, other than just petting him, which you can certainly do, which is always good. Yeah, Big Lou, that's something that's been talked about a lot on the forums. The ability to level up your characters, give your characters items, outfit them, take items from those characters and give them to other members in your party and vice versa, is something that really needs to be simplified in some way. And Larian has certainly heard that. It's been mentioned quite a bit in the forums. So I expect that there's going to be some new mechanic that's going to be worked on, but with patch 1 they had their hands full with, you know, all those other things that they needed to correct. So I expect it to be coming up sometime though. And nothing new from Wyll here, so we can go ahead and just go to bed. We'll auto select. It's again going to select all my raspberries, which I don't want to do. So we can just start adding in some more options. Do I have one that's got 5? Probably do somewhere around here. Yep, there's a honeycomb. I can split that. And there's 40. Okay, and there's nothing else that I need to do in here now, so I can go ahead and leave camp. And I'm obviously right back where I went into camp. So we're going to go ahead and go into hiding here. And we're going to make our way around here, and we're going to start prepping for this encounter. Because there are some very specific things you want to do here. And the first thing that I'm going to do is take the spider step boots and give them to Lae'zel. Okay, I want her to have freedom of movement around any webbed areas that we're going to encounter. So from here, I'm not going to need... Actually, I probably will. I'm going to equip the Amulet of Sylvanas, just so if we have somebody poisoned, I can, and I need to get rid of that poison immediately, I can. And I think the other thing that I'm going to do here is to change Lae'zel to Vision of the Absolute and the Woodwode Shield. So I'm going to be losing base damage off of Vision of the Absolute over, which is 1d6 right now because I'm using it with a shield, compared to 2d6 and 1d4 fire. However, I'm going to be fighting spiders. Spiders have multiple sets of eyes, so that's going to give me an additional 2d6 of piercing damage. So basically, I'm at 3d6 plus 3 damage, as opposed to 2d6 and 1d4. So I'm going to be gaining damage here in this specific encounter because of Vision of the Absolute. The other thing it gives me is it gives me the rush attack. This is going to allow me to move 9 meters with my attack and attack at the end of that and cause damage as I move, as I get to the end of that attack. So again, allowing me to close the distance here in this fight. So this is one of those fights where the Vision of the Absolute is certainly going to come in handy. So you need to have that prepped and ready as you go into this. I'm also going to split off some healing potions here. And make sure that Lae'zel is stocked up on those. And I will do the same thing here. So I'm going to put these here on Wyll. Going to put these here on Astarion, and now everybody has a decent amount of regular healing potions as well as this. The other thing that I want to focus on is my potions of speed. I definitely want Lae'zel to have one of these, to allow her to get some burst damage. And I want Astarion to have one as well. He's actually got 2 now. So that's perfectly fine. Okay, and there's no reason not to have Wyll equip Rain Dancer. I'm not going to have him get into close combat. And I want to have him with Chimera's Locket so he can cast Dancing Lights to illuminate certain areas where we might have somebody attacking that doesn't have dark vision. Okay, so I think that gets me prepared as far as the inventory goes. I don't know if I have... Yeah, I think that clears out what I wanted to do. So... Okay, so that gives me a good idea here on what we're going to do. So we're going to slowly start moving our way into this area. And we will start getting prepped for this. Okay, and now you can see the Thay Spider Matriarch. This is our first mini boss, so to speak, that you're normally going to run into in early access, or I mean in Act 1. And you can see that she has a lot of hit points. Okay, so this is why you want to prep for this and manage this combat. We have a phase spider down here, another phase spider here. We have the Matriarch here, and then we have 2 sets of eggs. One here, and one here. Now, what's going to happen during this combat
My patience wanes.
is that the phase spider Matriarch at the beginning of her turn is going to move over toward one of these clutches of eggs, and she's going to hatch them. And here there are 6 eggs, so 6 phase spider hatchlings are going to pop out of these eggs and move toward your characters just like phase spiders do. They can make an ethereal jump, and they can move toward your characters to try and engage in melee combat with them. So we want to try and eliminate some of these egg clutches before the combat starts. And one way to do that, because Lae'zel has the spider step boots on, you can actually, if you don't have somebody equipped with the spider step, you can have somebody stand over here and ranged attack all of these. You're just within range normally. But now that you're here, you can ranged attack these eggs and destroy them before you get into the main combat. And this is going to eliminate a source of 6 more spiderlings that are going to come out. Okay. So now I can move her back. And again, you want to do all of that while the phase spider Matriarch is turned away from you. Her detection cone doesn't reach down here anyway, but her line of sight can be quite a bit longer. So now we've eliminated those. And how we're going to take out these is by swapping the spider step boots to Wyll.
On the prowl. Careful.
And we're going to move Wyll over here to this island. And kind of pre-position him for this combat that's going to happen. He can stay in hiding over here, and he won't be seen. He is going to be the one who is going to be responsible for... Actually, I take that back. He's not. I had that wrong. Normally, I have a different spell selection for Wyll.
Quiet as a moonbeam.
My bard is going to be the one who is responsible for taking those out. So I need to give her the spider step boots and move her over there.
Don't mind me.
And while I'm here, I'm going to use a bardic inspiration on Lae'zel. Should be able to do that here without entering into combat or anything. Okay, so now I'll go back into hiding and I can move my bard across to this side. And again, you can see the detection cone, so the Matriarch doesn't see all the way down here. She is going to be casting a cloud of daggers onto these eggs. For her to do that, you can see she's going to have to move up to the center of that spot there to do it. And the detection cone for the phase spider matriarch is going to be very close to overlapping her. So once we start this combat off, I'm going to move her up and have her trigger all of these to destroy them. So she's just pre-positioned a little bit in that spot. Now, as far as
Staying out of sight.
the rest go, I'm going to be moving Wyll over here.
Careful.
To move down here onto this ledge area. Okay, I'm not going to go down there yet, but I am going to pre-position Wyll here. And part of the reason, oh yeah, I need to get rid of Wyll. I forgot that these boots look like they're regular boots, but they're not. They're actually Get Yankee boots, so they're medium armor. So what I can do now with Wyll is I have some options for some AoE damage here, especially with Shatter, which I can cast down here. So I don't want to get him into combat yet, but I want to pre-position him to be able to deal with these eggs as well as possibly this phase spider here by using an Eldritch Blast with a Repulsive Blast on it to possibly knock it off into the void, depending upon what happens with the positioning there. So Lae'zel, I'm going to move her right up here behind this rock. Lae'zel is going to have to be very careful about where she moves and doesn't move here. The other reason that I got rid of the Everburn Blade is because the Everburn Blade does fire damage. If you light a target on fire with the Everburn Blade and that target is standing on one of those spider webs, there's a chance that that fire is going to break that spider web. And if I'm standing on that web with the Phase Spider Matriarch, I can fall down and take fall damage out of it. And that's not something that I want to do. The Phase Spider Matriarch has so many more hit points than me already that I would prefer not to be losing hit points compared to her because of fall damage. So that's why the Vision of the Absolute's one more good thing to have here, is so that you don't have a chance of setting one of those webs on fire with your weapon and burning it up. So I'm going to start off this combat as usual with Astarion and hope that I get a good initiative roll. Okay, so I'm watching the detection cones here again. And I'm still a little bit out of range, it looks like. I can move up a little bit more here. Okay, so here I might be within range. I'll wait and see once the Phase Spider Matriarch turns back and walks back over here to this corner, if I can get within range enough to get off that sneak attack. So just going to be a little patient here, and then we'll start it off. I'm counting on the fact that I'm going to roll first on initiative. If I don't, she might be able to... Okay, so she's too far away at that point for a sneak attack. So I'm going to have to do just a regular attack, which I'm not too worried about, because I do have options for my arrows here. And I'm probably going to just utilize my either an arrow of acid or an arrow of frost here to cause in some additional damage. So we'll wait for her to come back over here and move the farthest away from Wyll, or my bard over there on that side, and then we'll kick this thing off. Okay.
Won't know what bit him.
Okay, so I did roll first on initiative. So that's what I wanted to see. So the enemy is surprised for one turn. So I now have a chance to deal as much damage as I can during this. And I forgot to change my spider step boots back to Lae'zel, but it's not going to matter here because neither one of them is in combat. So now with Lae'zel, looking at what I have for the detection cones, I can probably, looking at where they are, this spider's detection cone is right up here. I think I could probably get Lae'zel close enough behind the phase spider matriarch. To get in an attack here. Let's just move over this way and see if I can. And you have to be very careful with these detection cones because they don't necessarily render 100% correct when you deal with these spider webs. See, there's a little bit of it here. Okay, let's see if I can get... There's no point in doing most of my attacks here except for the extra damage. Okay, so I'm gonna have to move a little bit closer to do it. But let's see if I can get in here. Okay. So I did 30 points of damage right there. I'm going to add in another 1d6 of Valiant damage. Okay, and that is what the Vision of the Absolute does for you. Okay, see, there's my damage roll. I got that Absolute Knight gave me the additional 2d6 piercing damage for a total of 20. I wouldn't have been able to get that out of nearly as easily out of the Everburn Blade, and I would have had a chance to catch the spider web on fire and fall down here and take fall damage. So just a much better weapon choice overall for this encounter. So now again, gonna move my Bard up here, cast Cloud of Daggers on all of these. This is going to put her into combat. It didn't, which is great. The Phase Spider Matriarch isn't going to come back this way. And Cloud of Daggers is just going to continue to turn. So I don't care about removing it. The main goal was to remove that. And now
I have to keep going. Out of sight.
I can move her back. Now Lae'zel, I still need to keep her with the boots. So I don't think I'm close enough. And actually I got rid of the bridge. I should have moved that Cloud of Daggers a little bit farther down so I could try and walk across here. I don't think I have enough range. Okay, I can walk down there and do it that way. Let's do that. We'll walk down here.
I feel a breeze.
I wonder what's down there.
Give Lae'zel another combat inspiration. Now for Wyll. Again, we're going to bring Wyll into combat here with a shatter. Okay, and actually that did not bring Wyll into combat. So great. That's even better. So now what I can do is bring Wyll down here.
Quiet as a moonbeam.
And try and get him in a position where his repelling blast might knock this phase spider into the void here. Let's see what we can do. And we're gonna have to be a little careful because these detection cones are, again, a little weird. But if we move him here, I don't know if he's close enough to the edge or not. But we can certainly try. We've got a 91% chance to hit with advantage. And he's gone. Okay. So again, that was the best of all worlds there with that outcome. So we've got one phase spider left and the Matriarch. And that's it. So from here, if I dash with Astarion
This way.
can get him quite a bit down here. I'm going to move him kind of a little bit out of direct line of sight. You don't want to group your characters up because they do have an AoE or acid type attack. So what my plan here for Astarion is to have this phase spider hopefully go after Wyll, but he's surprised right now. So after this turn happens, I'm going to try and move Astarion in here and get a bite attack on him and see if I can get some debuffs in place as well as the happy buff for Astarion and take him out using Astarion and Wyll while I focus on the Matriarch with the others. Okay, so now again with Lae'zel here, my options, I don't think I can ensnare. That's a good question. Whether I can ensnare a target. I don't know if the ethereal jump so this is just immune to web. I don't know if the ethereal jump is going to be stopped by ensnaring or not. I do have a bonus action here I can use, and I think I might as well try it and see what happens. It's got a really small chance to hit. Okay, so it saved against it anyway. I'm definitely going to action surge. And I'm going to get the menacing attack. Like I say, none of these do anything here. Okay. So another 24. We're going to add in another 1d6. And then I'm going to get ready next turn and drink a potion of speed with Lae'zel.
This is my time.
So now again, here my only goal is to take out this phase spider. So I'm going to prep for that by again hexing the strength so it can't resist the repulsing blast or repulsion blast from him is easy.
Can't even catch my breath.
Now I'm down here again, and I think we're just going to focus down this phase spider here, and I think we can do that Because, yeah, they have a +0 to wisdom checks. The Matriarch is going to go next. She's got a +1 to wisdom checks. But I think we want to take out this phase spider first, because Astarian's going to get another chance to go here. So we're going to try Dissonant Whispers, and we're going to upcast this. Okay, so it saved, so it only took half damage from that. And now Astarian's going to get to go, and the detection cone for this fighter is still facing away, so I should be able to hide pretty easy here. But I'm going to cunning action dash first. Okay, I'm going to move around behind the spider. I misplayed my movement. I should have moved more up here to do it. So, do I have... I don't have any thunder arrows either. Gonna have to get really lucky with any of these here. So, we're going to hide.
The subtle approach.
And now with my sneak attack, see what damage we can get here. Okay, so... Boy, that was really low damage. Oh, so he succeeded on his saving throw. He rolled a 14. Okay, so we got unlucky with that. So again, going to kind of move him off a little bit. Now those two spiders are going to get their turn. So we got a little unlucky with those rolls. Okay, so now for Lae'zel again, because she has those... She has the boots on. Her movement speed is not affected by this. So I'm going to jump over here. I use my bonus action for that jump. So I'm not going to be able to drink a potion here. So let's see where I'm positioned at. If I push her off there, I don't want her to go falling into the void. So if I push her off, that's going to move her down here closer to Wyll. That's probably not what I want to do. So I think I'm just going to stick with my regular menacing attacks here. Great. A miss. Didn't need that.
Victor's path.
Okay, so now for Wyll, there's nowhere he can reach where I can knock this phase spider off, so we're just gonna go for some straight damage here. Oh, wow, 70% chance, and he misses too. Should have known those good rolls at the start against the Matriarch. We're going to get balanced out.
Stand in my way.
So 65% chance. I really would like to cast Berry Fire on the Matriarch. Again, a 65% chance here. Let's see if I can improve that a little bit. Well, that was interesting. It was 65 when I was outside of bonus range, and it's 60% now. So let's just go ahead and upcast Dissonant Whispers. Alright. So now that's going to free things up a little bit, so let's get another combat inspiration on Lae'zel if we can.
Let's turn the tables.
And we're going to move around here as far as we can. Okay, for starring, I don't have a lot of options from here. I'm going to be hitting from the low ground, which means the target's outside of normal range here. I'm gonna dash first and just experiment with what my movement can get me. Because I think I want to just move all the way back over here, as opposed to trying to navigate my way through here and up. Well, let's see where I can go. I can get here. Where can I jump? I can jump up to here.
Don't linger.
So maybe I can get all the way up here and get... I've still got a few meters of movement range left. I think he's still gonna... the Matriarch's still gonna be out of range. But we'll see.
On the hunt.
Yeah, still out of range, but I can get... No, I'm still out of range of a ranged attack here as well, so... I think my cantrip is still out of range, and I don't want to use it anyway because it's a fire cantrip, so I'm just going to end his turn and get ready for the next turn. Okay, so I have an opportunity attack here, which I'm going to take. Oh, wow. Okay, so the Face Spider Matriarch needs 18 to hit. She rolled a 23. Wow. So Valiant Defense would need to roll a 5 or a 6, which means it's got a 33% chance. Or I'd need to roll a 6, actually. So it's really not worth it. It looks like I'm going to take a hit here. I'm going to save my Bardic Inspiration for another time. And now I get down to the nitty-gritty here. So with my Bard, I definitely want to cast Healing Word and get Lae'zel back up. Now, Lae'zel is not going to have an action with that, but she does have a bonus action. So I'm going to drink my Potion of Speed, and now I have an action back.
Taking position.
Going to move up, and now I'm going to try a pushing attack. Push the Matriarch back. Well, I will have another attack of opportunity after this. After the turn ends. So yeah, let's just try it again. Actually, let's see if...
Still breathing, despite everything.
Because with Vicious Mockery here, or with Fairy Fire, am I able to cast it? I'm able to cast it up there, but I don't want Lae'zel in range of it. So I think I'm going to try Vicious Mockery instead. Try and give the Face Spider Matriarch disadvantage on its next attack roll. Okay. So that'll work. And now I'm going to try the pushing attack. Oh, wow. Wow, what a horrible roll. I rolled a 3. Oh, wow. So I'd need to roll a 6 on Valiant Attack for this to hit. So a very low chance again. Wow. He's just getting horrible rolls. Horrible rolls.
Holding back.
So... Okay, and I think... Yeah, he's not going to be able to cast it from directly underneath there.
Fleet of foot.
So if I cast this, I'm looking to see where it's going to push the Phase Spider Matriarch. It's going to possibly push it down here if the Eldritch Blast hits. Lae'zel would have a long way to go to get there, but it may keep Lae'zel alive. So I think I'm just going to tack on. It's got Vicious Mockery already. I think I'm just going to tack on another cantrip here if I can. Okay, so that missed. So now it's going to get its turn after Astarion here. So again, not much that Astarion's going to be able to do from over here. He's going to have to pass a dex save to move out here. Okay, he did. Okay, does he have enough range here? He does not. Yep, he needs to move a little bit closer to get there. Since he doesn't have the boots, it's going to be hard. Okay, so she etherealed out and went after Wyll, which is actually quite a bit better, because that would have knocked Lae'zel down again. So let's just keep moving in with Lae'zel and see what we can keep doing with our superiority die here. Actually, now that we've got another chance, let's see if we can impose some...
Blood comes easy these days.
Let's see if I shouldn't have moved shouldn't have moved her in here. Okay, so she's still not close enough to cast that. So I think we're going to dash just so we can get
What path lies
her
before
up
me?
here. And we're going to use our bonus action to heal Lae'zel some more. And that's going to give her Blade Ward. So if it does choose to melee attack, we're going to take half piercing damage. And now for Wyll.
Battle favors the fearless.
I think again, we're just going to try and impose disadvantage on its next attack roll. And she saved. So now I don't have any choice but to... Ow! Look at that! Rolling 3s, 4s, and 5s. So I'd need a +5 from this, so a 33% chance for this thing to hit. So I'm just gonna miss this attack. Attack again. That one hit, so at least now I can apply damage to it. And I'm going to use my bonus action for second wind here. Wow, just so many misses.
I won't give in.
So many horrible misses. I want to try and get some separation between my characters here. Okay, so I'm gonna... Astarion's kind of stuck here. He's not going to be able to do much of anything. Because of his movement speed penalty on these webs and all of that sort of stuff. So... he's not able to jump over there. I saw it. There it is. Alright, at least that gets him in position here. Well inside the detection cones, but that doesn't matter for me at this point. Okay, so I can add in sneak attack damage to that. So now one last turn for the Matriarch. Okay, that was bad. Okay. Good, so again, that worked out well with the Blade Ward, because the piercing damage got cut in half. So... yes. So the damage was cut in half because of the resistance down there at the bottom. So she did go for a melee attack there, and it actually worked out fairly well. So now let's just go one more time here, and before we do, let's try and up that 65%.
Still on my feet.
See if we can cast Fairy Fire here. Perfect. So now she's got advantage on that attack.
I will ascend.
So now it's at 88%. Alright. So now we're going to use our second action, and hopefully we can end this here finally. Okay. And you see there's a Steam achievement for that. Okay, well, that was a lot harder than I expected it to be, just because we had 3 rounds of horrifically bad rolls from Lae'zel. But again, that's how Dungeons and Dragons work. That's how it works. But yeah, it was certainly quite a bit more difficult than it could have been, based upon how such a good start we had. When we took off half of her hit points in the first round, or the first 2 rounds with Lae'zel before she even got an attack, I guess that I should have realized that just meant that that last half of the hit points was going to be much worse. So now we can loot the Matriarch, and you get the Poisoner's Robe out of this. If you knock her into the void, you're not going to get the opportunity to loot her sometimes. And it kind of depends. Sometimes you'll be able to see her body sitting down here in the bottom of the void. If you move your mouse around, you can kind of see it way down there. And if you click it, you can actually move over to the edge and search her body and retrieve these. Sometimes you can't. So that's why I'm very careful with my repulsing blasts as to who I target and how they're going to be moved by that blast, because I want to be able to search them afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and get some hit points back. It's not going to matter because my action economy is completely gone here. Lae'zel is completely... yeah, she just got him back, but her superiority die were gone. Wyll got his spells back because of that, but my bard is completely out. So I'm going to end up taking another long rest, but I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to finish clearing out the Whispering Depths here, and then we will kind of work our way forward on that. But for now, let's go ahead and go down this way, and we'll make our way over toward the other side. But yeah, the other thing that goes along with, just to mention something else that got changed in patch 1. Another strategy, if you have Shadowheart in your party, or if you've brought somebody along who has the spiritual weapon spell is that you used to be able to cast spiritual weapon somewhere, and by somewhere, what you would normally do is cast it right in here. The Thay Spider Matriarch would, if you didn't get a chance to kill the eggs, she would open up this egg clutch first, and they almost made a beeline straight for your spiritual weapon. Same thing with this egg clutch down here. They would make a beeline for your spiritual weapon, and they would just get in a big cluster all around it on all sides and just keep trying to attack it. And that basically removed them, the spiderlings, from the fight. They would just focus almost solely on the spiritual weapon, and you could just sit there and deal with the other spiders without having to deal with them. Patch 1, they kind of admitted that the spiritual weapon drew an inordinate amount of aggro. Enemies were tending to focus on the spiritual weapon at the expense of going after other targets like your spellcasters and things like that might be easier targets to deal with. So they changed that. So the spiritual weapon no longer draws as much aggro as it used to. So it's not as useful in that respect, but it is certainly still a useful spell to have. So here we have the Dark Amethyst.
I'll take that.
And this is the key to something. That's right, Flaming Sphere, yes, did the same thing. They were drawing an inordinate amount of aggro. And in the patch notes for patch 1, Larian has addressed that. So, okay, so there is a waypoint down here, so if you're seriously damaged after this fight, and you want, or if you've come here first, you can then have an easy way to get back here to this point to continue your explorations. I've chosen to save this till the end. So, but we are going to move over here to this side and search this skeleton. And just some more items to sell. And again, as we're going through this, just holding left alt and looking around as we go. Okay, so looking at our mini-map, you can see that we've opened up all the areas of the Whispering Depths here. I don't believe that there's anything else that we haven't... Wait a minute. Yes, there is another area that we haven't explored. Let's head back up here. Okay, so no, we did. Yeah, no, we explored it. Okay, yeah, we've explored everything down here. So we don't need to be down here in the Whispering Depths anymore. So we are going to head back to our camp for a long rest. And while we're there, we are going to deal with the Necromancy of Thay and the Dark Amethyst. And we are and to do that, we are going to change up our party temporarily. Okay, so we're going to take a long rest and head back to camp. Okay, so what we're going to do is first... Who's closest? Astarion is closest, so we're just gonna... No, Wyll's closest, so we're gonna talk to Wyll.
Well met. Are you sure? The blade stands at the ready. And just when things were warming up.
And we're going to recruit Shadowheart.
Lady of Sorrows, guide us. Did you want something? All right. Some company wouldn't hurt on the road, especially if there's trouble.
Okay, and her portrait
Wits and
is
blades,
a little
always
messed
sharp.
up. So now we're going to transfer the Necromancy of Thay and the Dark Amethyst to her. The reason we're doing that is because of her proficiency in wisdom saving throws and her 18 wisdom score, plus the fact that she has resistance as a cantrip, which adds in another bonus to saving throws, as well as guidance, which has a bonus to ability checks. So we also have another option here, which actually I don't, because my bardic inspiration's done. So we're gonna finish our long rest here, and then we're gonna talk to Shadowheart after we've done the long rest, and I've gotten my bardic inspirations back. There's nothing, we just had a bunch of our conversations, or there's nothing else we need to talk about down in here. So let's just go ahead and 7. I don't know if there's anything that has 7. So there is 6. We can split off 1 raspberry. And that gets us 40. And now we'll talk to Shadowheart.
Something's on my mind.
Shah's blessings upon you.
Okay. So we're all good here. So this is where things are going to get interesting. The Necromancy of Thay has changed quite a bit since early access and how you deal with it. So the first thing that we're going to do, and this is a little dangerous here on what you can and can't do with this. There's a buff that comes, well, there's 2 buffs that come along with this, but there's 2 debuffs that come along with it as well, depending upon how well you are at wisdom checks. Now, the buff is great for a character that you're going to have in your party all of the time. Alright? But, however, I've got a serious disadvantage to making all of the necessary checks here with a +0 to wisdom compared to a +6 over here with Shadowheart. Astarion has a +2 total to saving throws, but a +1 to his skill checks. So these things are going to be very difficult for anybody else other than Shadowheart. Now Shadowheart is going to she's going to benefit from that buff, but since she's not a permanent member of my party all of the time, it can be a little not as useful since she's not in my party all the time. But I'm going to have her attempt to go through this. And I've got 4 inspirations, which is important because there might need to be some re-rolls here, depending upon how this goes.
The book is locked tight with no visible keyhole, only an oval recess in the cover's mouth. You try to examine the book, but the longer you stare, the more those piercing amethyst eyes draw you in. You feel the darkness radiating from the book. It's delicious.
A cursed book? How obvious. Whoever opens it deserves the fate that befalls them.
That looks terribly heavy. Why don't you let me carry it for you?
Okay, now you can drop the book and just try and destroy it. The book is only able to be damaged by radiant damage, which means Shadowheart casting Guiding Bolt, or a paladin hitting it with Divine Smite, or something like that would do it. However, when you do it, when you try and destroy the book, it's going to spawn some shadow monsters that are... It's an interesting fight, to say the least. And one that you want to be prepared for. So I'm not going to destroy it. I'm going to try and pass the checks here. So if you also read this book with somebody else, you can just put the book away and not, and get out of this dialogue check here. Okay, so you have another option here to give the book to Astarion. And again, I haven't played through the rest of the acts yet to see if there is some advantage to giving this to him or not. I haven't read that there is, but that doesn't mean it's been fully explored either. I'm going to continue on and open the book here.
The book's pull is irresistible. You feel changed, bettered for having opened it. Suddenly you are capable of anything. Felling mountains, darkening suns, conversing with the dead. Glyphs shift gently before your eyes. Words slip into your mind, onto your lips, forming words you don't understand. And something is trying to reply.
Okay, so here is my first wisdom saving throw that I have to make. It's a DC of 10. I've got a total bonus of 6. I can add in resistance here, or bless. It's still 1d4 either way I do it. I didn't want to use that high roll this early. I wish I would have saved that one.
The symbols dart beneath your eyes, warping and twisting. Your head throbs, but you almost understand.
Okay, so again, I have another saving throw to make here. It's a DC of 15. I've already got my resistance bonus, so I'm not going to change it to bless. Resistance is still just fine. And that was bad. Okay, so now I'm going to re-roll that. Again, another high roll. That means my next one's going to be, I'm going to roll a bunch of nat 1s here.
The world around you is gone. You can only see those glyphs, only hear those voices. You feel claws moving in the shadows. They pull at you, dragging you closer.
Okay, and here is where you get some different choices here. So you have saving throws that are available to you. And then you have a Cleric of Shar Wisdom check. Okay. So the differences here is that I'm obviously getting +4 from Wisdom and +4 from Wisdom, but on these two I'm getting +2 from Proficiency and Saving Throws, and another 1d4 from Resistance. However, the main difference here is the DC of these checks. So I'm going to pick the Cleric of Shar option here. That gives me a DC of 10. The other two checks are DC 20. So you get an additional +2 bonus from proficiency and a 1 to a maximum of 4 bonus because of resistance. However, it increases the difficulty class by 10. So here we miss out on that +6, but we have an opportunity to now add in guidance and combat inspiration if we would like, to more than make up for those. And our DC is half of what it would be. So this is the other reason why having Shadowheart read this is by far the easier way to go. So I'm just going to put guidance in here.
The glyphs scream, branding your mind with strange runes. You see time rewritten, fate undone, your future thrumming with power. You struggle to cling to scraps of what you know. Powerful necromancy, you're sure. But it darts away, leaving only hell's screams. The book snaps closed. You've seen too much. What profane knowledge is now seared inside of you should never have known.
Except there is not before you do the roll. There's no way of knowing what it is. Now, from your guys' perspective, I've said before, I'm never going to do save scumming on my live streams. When I do a quick save, it's just in case there's a crash or something, and speaking of which, I'll do one now. It's not because I ever save right before a dice roll and then reload it if I fail it. Feel free to do that. Before you roll any dice in this game, just hit F5 on your keyboard or whatever the console controller equivalent's going to be and do a quick save. And then if you fail it, you can reload it. That way you can get that buff applied to somebody who might be in your party all of the time, as opposed to somebody who isn't going to be. But I'm just not going to do that. So I need to take care how I'm going to do it, because those debuffs, one of them is a 50 turn debuff, which means you have disadvantage on all your wisdom saving throws for the next 50 turns. That's not horrible, because the turns run out fairly quickly in this game, and if you just walk around, it's going to be worn off before I get into another encounter. If you fail 2 of those checks, that disadvantage to wisdom saving throws becomes permanent. And that's a huge debuff for anybody who fails those, or anybody in your party. So you have to be very careful about what you do with the Necromancy of Thay. But because the buff is great, but the potential for bad things to happen if you're not save scumming the game can be pretty substantial. So what does reading the Necromancy of Thay right now give you? Well, the first is it allows you to speak with the dead as a ritual. It's just an action. You don't need a spell slot to cast it. So you no longer have to wear, if Shadowheart's in your party, you no longer have to prepare the Speak with the Dead spell, or you no longer have to have somebody wear the amulet that allows you to speak with the dead. There are times where she's going to be in our party, and because of her character arc and how we want to progress that, but for now, that's not going to really benefit us much. The other thing that it does is she has forbidden knowledge. So completely passive from partially deciphering. Those two words are very important. The Necromancy of Thay, you get a +1 bonus to wisdom saving throws and ability checks. So now her ability checks for wisdom, you can see she's got an additional +1 from forbidden knowledge. And that applies to both saving throws and ability checks that are based upon wisdom. So for her, doing something like a perception check while you're walking around out in the wild, she's going to have a +7 bonus to that. So it allows you to have a lot of benefits just passively interacting with characters and also just passively walking around the world because of having forbidden knowledge. The words in that partially deciphering are key because the Necromancy of Thay can also, there's a continuation of that for deciphering the rest of it, which is in Act 3 of the game. So the Necromancy of Thay is going to be put on hold for a little bit, but you will be able to see it says we read most of the book, but it snapped shut before we could finish it. You're going to be able to finish reading this book in Act 3. You could also throw it on the ground and destroy it right now, if you'd like. Okay. So all the rest of these quests we've already seen. We got some more information from Shadowheart about her memory. We talked to Astarion more about his background with the vampire family, and Gale told us about his need to consume artifacts. So the rest of these are all fairly simple things that we don't need to worry about. So I'm going to leave the Necromancy of Thay on Shadowheart.
Let's get going.
And I'm going to now again remove her from the party and bring Wyll back.
Fine. I'll be here whenever you rediscover your taste in company.
If not over, then through.
Well met. That's the spirit.
Okay, so as far as items that we picked up the Poisoner's Robe. The Poisoner's Robe is basically any spell that does poison damage, whether it be a cantrip or a spell, will do an additional 1d4 poison damage. That can have some rather interesting synergies later on once you pick up another item. So we don't need it necessarily right now, but it can come into play a lot more later on, especially if you have Gale in your party. But being able to cast Magic Missile from Wyll off of a scroll or something like that, like I said, it can have some very interesting synergies later on to add in that additional 1d4 damage. So we don't need it for now. Will's going to be wearing padded armor. He's not going to be wearing a robe. He would be dropping his armor class pretty significantly to wear it. So I'm just going to keep it in my camp for now. Okay, so again, nothing else that I need to do in here. This was just getting, like I say, my spell economy back, or my action economy back. So we can go ahead and leave camp. And we can head back to the Emerald Grove environs. We're going to head in here, and we're going to clear out our inventory. And again, just like we always remember, you want to initiate the trading with your highest charisma character. So in that case, it's either Wyll or my bard. Either one, doesn't matter.
What to do?
And we're going to talk to Aaron here, but before we do that, let's take a little bit of time here and just clean things up as much as we can. Just going to make some of this stuff easier to sell. Okay, Highcliffe's blueprints we're going to keep for now. Oh, did I accidentally send those to camp? I might have. I'll keep the caustic bulbs. I don't necessarily think I need to keep them, but I will. Lumps Warhorn we don't need anymore. And the rest of this. Almost did it again. Okay, so we do have a medium armor helmet here. Astarion just has light armor proficiency. Is that correct? Yes, just light armor for now. So we don't need any of that. So the ritual staff here, we don't need any of this. The antidotes we will need. The potion of sleep we'll keep. And for Lae'zel here. So for her, all the way down through, looks like all of this, all the way down, yeah, looks like it's good all the way down through the bottom. Add to wares. And here, one more here. And he's not going to be using his rapier. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and see what we get for selling here.
Need anything else? Of course, but please remember, you're not the only one in need.
So here we'll see if I can sell off all these wares. I don't have enough. Let's see if he has anything that I want to buy here. Okay, so there's scale mail +1. So I definitely want to pick up one of these. And where did my scale mail go? There it is. So now is there enough? Yes. Okay, so just looking through what's remaining here. Seeing if there's anything else. Probably time for me to get rid of Spell Thief. So, looking through the rest of the armors here. Chainmail +1. So, Lae'zel is now going to get rid of her Githyanki half plate. That's got a 15 and she's got a bonus to 17. This would be the same 17. Still has disadvantage on stealth checks either way, except now she's going to take 1 less slashing damage. Probably not going to be able to sell all of her wares. She's got way too much stuff. So that I want to keep. So again, we're going to start going through the high carry weight items first. So we'll start with all the weapons down here. Okay. See if there's anything else. So Wyll has got padded armor here. Let's
Sylvanas be with you.
Exit out of this and check something about Wyll. Honestly, and this is simply me, I have so many playthroughs going that I don't know how I have spec'd Wyll here. Yeah, so he's got light armor and shields. Okay. So we're going to pick up...
All right. What now? Something's on my mind.
Need anything else? Of course. But please, remember, you're not the only one in need.
Okay, so Wyll right now is wearing padded armor +1 with an AC of 12. The leather armor +1 again is AC of 12. I take 1 less bludgeoning damage versus a +1 on stealth checks. That's not a big deal for Wyll. So he's good with where he's at. I think the rest of these are fine. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what those are. Those are from the digital deluxe edition. I was wondering what those were. It took me a second to remember what they were. Okay, so I think I'm good for now. I'm going to go down to Aaron. And...
Sylvanas
or down to Damon, I mean, and see what else I can sell
Can't
off.
slow down.
I'll have to burn them.
And you see in here we get a little bit of frame stuttering a little bit when we move around, especially when you start turning and it's rendering in new characters.
We're exposed now.
That is much diminished with Vulcan, but again, you're sacrificing long-term stability.
Looking for steel? I have, well, something close.
Okay, so what do we have here? Same things we were looking at previously. I think I'd like to swap Astarion out from his padded armor to give him a +1 on his stealth checks. Now we can see if he can sell off all his wares, he can. I don't need to carry that many thieves' tools, so I'm going to split that off and see if I can sell off the rest. All of her wares have been sold off except for the bloodstone. I can now get rid of it as well. Okay, probably not going to be able to sell off all of this. Oh, actually was. Okay. So a light crossbow +1. Yeah, I wish we had another hand crossbow in here, but we don't. So I could get a dagger +1 to just up his offhand damage. Might as well. No reason not to. Now, can she sell off the Githyanki half plate? She still can't. So I do think I want to pick up this Arrow of Roaring Thunder. These things are very, very useful. The Arrow of Darkness, not so much. The Arrow of Ilmater are great against targets that are regenerating. So they're great against the Woodwodes. And from that respect, I think that's it. The Safeguard Shield is nice, just adding a +1 to saving throw compared to the Ensnaring Strike here. But the Ensnaring Strike is more useful when you're trying to keep something close to you. But again, most times not wearing a shield. I think what I might do though is swap over...
Me too.
We're exposed now. Who the hell's take me?
is swap over my Bard.
Looking for steel? I have, well, something close.
I've been neglecting this in favor of her ranged attack ability, but I think it's time that I focus on this. Whoops. I don't want to barter, I want to trade. And not going to matter what happens to this here in a little bit, but that level up is coming. Boy, I'm trying to... Okay. So I'll swap that out too. Okay, so is everybody sold off everything? We can now get rid of the Githyanki half plate, and I think all of our inventories are cleared out with the exception of the thieves' tools. Yes, that's right.
My dagger. Nearly ready.
Okay, so now here, again, a couple of things you want to do. With the Star End, you normally don't need to carry this many thieves' tools. I normally have 5 that I carry on him at any one time. His chance to pass any lockpick is so high that I don't carry a lot of them around, because those 10 thieves' tools take up 2 pounds of carry weight. In early access, they took up a lot more than that. So, but for now, you just don't need to carry all of them. So there's no need to have that much carry weight taken up by those. So I think that gets us what we need. While we're here, there is something else that we definitely need to do that I believe I forgot about when I was walking around inside the sacred pool last time. So we're going to head down there and see. And while we're here, we're going to do something else. So we're going to break our group here. We're going to go to Lae'zel.
You nearly died. Did you hear me?
Objective noted.
What your mother and I have done.
We're going to jump her up here. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to jump her back down here. Take some damage, I don't care.
No one back home
Went
will
up
ever
in the
believe
wrong
this.
spot.
With haste. Still got to face the goblins before we can go anywhere. Druids.
So, actually I
There'll be
didn't.
other things looking to kill us.
So now I need to take Lae'zel back the way we came.
Without
This is my fault for messing this up. I thought it was in the wrong spot. Need to come around this way. Back behind Aaron. So once she gets here, okay, we're gonna jump her down here. We're gonna jump her over here. And we have a shiny chest here that is locked. So we're just going to pick that up, put it in our inventory.
How could we be so blind?
And now we're going to jump down here, take this damage. Again, I don't really care about the damage. I have so many healing potions that it's not a big deal. Okay, and I could have used second wind there to do it as well. And now that we're down here, I can take this shiny chest, I can drop it on the ground, and I can have Astarion lockpick it.
Should be easy.
It wasn't just Korga. It's all the fault.
Okay, it's a DC of 15. We can add in guidance. Okay, so we have some gold here. An arrow of monstrosity slaying. This is great. It does double damage to monstrosity type characters. Another arrow of Ilmater, which we've already talked about previously, and a silver ingot, which can be sold off.
Should we sacrifice ourselves for strangers?
This is... Oh. No. Why is this? Why is Lae'zel not shown in the list? Interesting. Okay, and now we're going to head down in here and go to Nettie's work area. Okay, and once we're here, we're going to break the group again. Take Astarion in here. Okay, so in here is where we want to go. Yes. There's a Mind Flayer Parasite specimen here on the desk. So we're going to hide.
On tippy toes.
And we're going to steal that. Okay, there are some other things in here that you can read and that sort of stuff. But that is something, that is one thing that I'm definitely absolutely willing to steal from them while we're here. Okay, so we can come in here and just take the mugwort. And we have on antidotes, which we can read. Okay, it talks about the recipe for the antidote. So we've unlocked the recipe for that. So we can craft those on demand now. And you see that there's this cauldron of boiling theriac. We mentioned this previously. Nettie, when we had our conversation with her, had the poisoned branch on her. She actually uses that to poison you, meaning you selected the options and went through the dialogue where she poisoned you. You could read you become poisoned and you start taking damage. You can read the on antidote recipe. You can pick up the mugwort and the bullywug trumpets, which are in here, and you can craft yourself an antidote to that poison while you're in this room. So the game gives you a way to save yourself from that if you don't already have an antidote in your inventory. And the way that you can do that is by coming over to the cauldron here and crafting it inside the cauldron. You don't have to go into your alchemy to craft it. Okay, you get another quest called like craft the antidote for the poison or something like that, and that part of the quest will require you to use the cauldron of boiling theriac. There's no other use for it during the normal playthrough of the game other than that. But we did unlock that antidote, and while we're here we can check our alchemy and just look and see what we have. So we can craft antidotes, potions of healing, elixirs of fire resistance, alchemist fire, and oils of accuracy. So any of those, depending upon which actual ingredients we have. So we know that these suspensions can all be crafted here. So the way they all work is that you craft a sublimate, a salt, essence, ashes, vitriol, or suspension, and then those are used here with any other ingredient to craft whatever you're looking for. So, but you have to have the recipe unlocked for those things to be made. Okay, so we've gone through and we've done our clearing out our inventory and all that sort of stuff. Here inside the Blighted Village, we still have one encounter section left to do here. We've already cleared out Lump and his friends. Let me make sure that's right. We might have 2 encounter sections left. I think we do have 2 left. And one of them is here, in this area here. So we're going to move backward a little bit. They're non-hostile right now, so it doesn't really matter if they knock you out of hiding. But starting off next week, we are going to finish clearing out this area. We're going to clear out a very fun encounter over here in this area that has just been changed. Patch 1 added a new option for the Ogre Fun Time encounter, so to speak. A different way to play it. So we're going to finish clearing out with those 2 encounters. So we're going to start off with some combat right off the bat next time. And then we are going to head north and start making our way into the Risen Road. We're going to get into the toll house. We're going to get into the Zentarum caravan. We probably won't have enough time to make it into Joaquin's Rest. Over here is my guess. We're not going to have enough time for that next week, but we'll certainly see. So we are going to start off with some combat next week, and then we will progress into some more exploration, which is going to very quickly get us into some combat around in here, and then a very, very difficult combat encounter inside the toll house. We'll go through it more once we get there, but if you're used to what happened in the toll house during early access, it is not the same. It has gotten much, much harder, and the reason for that is that one of them's a paladin, and the paladins, unlike early access, now actually use their abilities a lot more. And being on the receiving end of Divine Smite and on the receiving end of multiple extra attacks of Divine Smite is not fun at all. So that encounter's a lot different. So we're going to be exploring up that way once we finish clearing out the northwestern side of the Blighted Village here. So I think that's going to give us a very good point to start off next week's live stream. And again, next week our times are going to be the same. So we will have our standard Saturday live stream here starting at noon and going until 3 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And then Sunday from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time. That will be the same next week. It will be the week after that, starting the weekend of September 9th and 10th, that things are going to change a little bit. So pay attention to the community post I'm going to put up and the changed altered schedule on the About tab of the YouTube channel to stay up to date on all of those times. So for those of you who aren't aware also, the Paladin live stream will be continuing tomorrow at its regular time from 2 until 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time. That's GMT minus 5. So feel free to join in and watch a Paladin going through Act 1. A little bit, obviously, earlier than we are here because that's only episode 4 of the Paladin livestream compared to this being 8 for the Bard. So if you missed earlier sections of Act 1, feel free to chime in tomorrow and see how the Paladin plays those areas in Act 1. So, again, as I've said before, the amount of support that you all have shown to the channel over the past month has been incredible, and I can't thank you all enough. For everyone who was here today, again, I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. Without your support, none of this would be possible. This is Commander Jorval saying until next time, fare thee well.